Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday edition on Wednesday episode of the Hog Talk podcast presented to you by Vision Exteriors. A lot of news, a lot of different angles around one subject that we can break down. Of course, the huge news of the day, apparently, Trey Schapp reporting that Alec Golish is going to be the head coach, has accepted the job, and we've heard only it coming from him. Everybody's talking about it. Today, we've seen USF bring out their statement from their AD. But Adam, what was your initial reaction to Trey Schapp's tweet that Alec Golish had indeed accepted the job at Arkansas?
I mean, I was a bit of relief, I guess, at first. Just for the fact that, okay, it looks like this is finally done. We can stop talking about the what ifs, all that. And Golish is one that we had all kind of touched on weeks ago, being in the mix early on in this. I like Alex Golish as a coach. I like the saltiness that he has. It's one of those, is you do me wrong, I'm going to get you back kind of. I mean, he holds that grudge. I know some people, there's the video put out, which I can play here in a minute, from him and Tom Herman earlier this season. And it's one of those things that, hey, he held a little bit of a grudge. He got his payback. And at the same time, it's like, hey, we don't have to be friends. We're adversaries, if you will. Yeah. Also with Alex Golish, one of the first things that came to mind is his co-offensive coordinator that's from Fort Smith and a former teammate of mine, Cody Burns, who was wide receiver at Auburn when they won their national championship with Cam Newton. I'd love to see him here. So I was happy with it. Now, of course, we didn't get any other confirmation afterwards. I mean, we can kind of connect the dots with some things, which we'll talk about. But, other than that, like I know there's a lot of folks that are uncertain, which I get that. I totally get that.
So,
but a lot of the folks that are saying that this was a whiff hire, that this is not a good look, or this isn't the right guy, whatever. It's one of those, if you're only pointing to his USF head coaching record and that's all you have to go off of, then kindly exit the conversation. Yeah. He had, what was it? 2021, 2022. I mean, he was the offensive coordinator at Tennessee. Jalen Hyatt, Hendon Hooker, Joe Milton. I mean, those were some potent offenses at Tennessee. So I've also got a video that we can play in a little bit, kind of showing what him and his coaches do evaluation style when it comes to the players, his recruiting style, when it gets to, high school athletes, people in the portal, whatever. So all around, in just like a couple of clips today, I've heard more from him on his coaching player evaluations with his coaches and his recruiting style than I heard in the 6 years at the previous administration here.
Yeah. And this right here, that says it all to me right here. Tennessee fans are talking about how much of a home run hire we just got. And then another one, Kiffin 2.0. To me, it's almost like, okay, Kiffin 2.0, but he reminds me of like what you wanted from Gruden. That tenacity and stuff. A buddy of mine on Facebook, he said, what if I told you could hire the OC of a top offense in the country, averaging 46 points per game, 525 yards per game at an SEC school, in the previous year, 39.9 points per game and 475. Does that kind of firepower interest you? Congratulations, that's your new head coach. Okay, so pretty much what you're clamoring about with Bobby Petrino and his firepower at offense, this is kind of what you're getting if indeed this all falls through. So I think this goes into what we've been talking about, is because this hire or the firing of Sam Pittman happened 10 weeks ago and so many names were put out there, you elaborated it. You're not going to make everybody happy no matter what name they go with. But I think once you get this guy in here, and this is all from, put a disclaimer out. This is if everything happens. So from here on out throughout this show, we're talking about if he is indeed hired. You'll be getting a guy with firepower. You're talking about Arkansas ties. I mean, everybody brings up his wife from Greenwood. Then you're bringing, if you do bring in your OC, Fort Smith. I mean, so you're checking off a lot of boxes. It's just the nostalgia of him not being here 15 years ago. You're getting that.
Mm-hmm.
His emotions when, yes, wasn't it Tom Herman that he didn't shake his, wasn't that who that was?
Yeah.
That he didn't
I've got that video too.
It's a lot of those things that it excites you, and you're like, okay, guys, just kind of the expectations and who you thought. I think a lot of people are, you got the Bobby Petrino camp. Yeah, the James Franklin camp, which people, are still on the fence of why didn't that go through. There's also the side that we can get into of later on in the show. There's a lot of people saying if Hunter Yurchek screws this up, if he does this, but we are under the assumption he had nothing to do with this hire. So is he getting credit for this? There's so much, even if it is not Golish, the next hire. Was he a part of this? And is he going to get credit for it, whether he was with it or not? Does this save him time? So we can break down, we can start with a couple of the videos that kind of explain who Alex Golish is and kind of introduce you to him a little bit.
So first I'll start with the Tom Herman incident. So backstory on this, the season before, FAU, Florida Atlantic, beat USF handily. And they were up big, and FAU onside kicked it, which didn't sit well with Alex Golish and the team. Fast forward to this year, USF was up large, and he went for a 2-point conversion after a touchdown. So there's, it was his payback, if you will. End of the game, Tom Herman comes out with his handshake, and I guess some words were being said. Alex Golish just kind of swatted his hand away and kept walking and just went to shake the players' hands of the opposing team. So, he stood his ground there. And here is that one.
South Florida trailed at the half. They end up scoring the game's final 30 points. They run for more than 300 yards. The defense ties a school record with 7 sacks. And Tom Herman and Alex Golish getting into it as they're coming off the field.
That is the definition of a rivalry right there.
Yeah, that's a rivalry, folks.
I can't stand Tom Herman. He ever since he done his little immature little thing at the quarterback for Missouri, when he was doing the horns down thing, and what was the quarterback's name for Missouri that did the horns down, and then he was on the sidelines doing this whole thing.
Was it Blake Bortles?
No, Blake Bortles was UCF.
Or Drew Lock.
Drew Lock, yes.
Yeah.
They were playing when he was at Texas, because Drew Lock scored the touchdown. Then he done the horns down thing. And then after the game, he was doing this, just his attitude. And for him to sit there and just not even entertain it, he's like standing on business. So that is the thing that you're going to get. He is going to have that tenacity on him, and he is no F's given. That's what you love about him. And you talk about turning back the clock 10 or 15 years. Would you love? Yeah, you want Bobby Petrino. Just think if you can kind of get that 2010, 2011 Bobby Petrino all over again. And, his quarterback, I've watched a few of his highlights. Dude does not shy away from lowering his shoulder, playing through. You're going to get that type of effort out of this guy. So, when Arkansas, they're in desperate need of a culture change, there's another box right there. He can come in and completely change the whole culture of this university. Then there's the other thing. Let me go back to the comment, because I wanted to kind of touch on it, and we can break it down too, is right here. Is it true that he's waiting to see what happens to Ole Miss before he signs a contract? That is another angle that we could potentially be looking at. If Lane bolts, there's reports that, he's their top priority. So then it comes into, do you want to go to Ole Miss or Arkansas? And I know this is going to piss some Ole Miss people off, but I think if Lane leaves Ole Miss, now it's an even playing field. I'm not saying Arkansas is the better job. I'm not saying Ole Miss is the better job. It would pretty much be a toss-up. Do you want to go to Arkansas or do you want to go to Ole Miss? I think the edge to Arkansas is money, because I think it's coming. And then the whole thing of, you're not competing against anybody. You're getting all the NIL money you want because there's nobody else to give it to. Now, I have seen tweets of people saying, hey, this ain't what we've been told. If this is true, then I'm done. There's a lot of people that are not happy with it. And I don't know if they just don't know who the guy is, or that's not who they were told that Arkansas was targeting. So it's crazy what happens when a name is said and done. This is who they're going to hire. Now you're seeing a lot of different opinions come out of what they think of this coach.
Obviously, and there's another comment here that he hasn't accepted or signed. We know that. We've talked about that. We touched on that at the beginning of the show. It's why the picture for the show, the thumbnail for the show, had a question mark on it. There's been reports that it would be finalized Sunday, and that, yes, the report was leaked early. And yes, there are unhappy parties with this because they still have a game to play. I totally believe that. I believe the sentiment that this was leaked and this wasn't supposed to be released yet, but it was, and we're here now and we're talking about it. So it's one of those things. Yeah, there's a real possibility that something could happen between now and Sunday and that this doesn't happen. There's also a chance that this does happen. And the thing with Ole Miss too, I kind of have talked myself into, what if Lane right now is making the biggest troll of his career and he's not going anywhere, and he's now dead stopped LSU and Florida in their coaching search and their recruiting for the past few weeks while this has happened? Because that's in the realm of things.
That's where I'm thinking. I mean, look, if we have our opinions and our thoughts, that's what I said on Sunday's show. I think it's a legit, because again, when you go back to, what happened when Ole Miss and LSU played, and Will Weeks thought it'd be a cool flex to post a picture with his daughter, and then all of a sudden he just throws back, take the over. Like, he knows what he's doing. There is a lot of people that underestimate. They still see the immature. They just see the trolling of what Lane Kiffin does. He knows exactly. He is a very smart person. And that's what I think. I think he's going to stay. But what you're seeing come out of the AD's office at Ole Miss, and then what you see is coming out of the office at USF, it's very vague. It's, hey, we've talked to Golish. We're ready to move forward, but it doesn't say with or without Golish. There's a lot of stuff that is not there. So if you want just to say, hey, what we think is going to happen is this was leaked. He is leaving. He wanted it to be released Sunday after, the final week, and go from there, because now you're really having to peel back the onion of the layers of the onion of how much does this affect the players of USF? What does this affect to their fans, their administration? They're having to regroup. You're thinking you have this guy that, hey, we're trying to put a plan together, and then somebody comes and poaches him, like in Arkansas. And you can't be mad at it if you're USF, because this is an SEC program. I know where Arkansas stands. And yes, we can sit here and go tit for tat of why any other program is better than Arkansas right now. But we're looking at the grand scheme of where this could be 4 or 5 years down the road if this thing works out. Mm-hmm. Arkansas can be one of those programs. And if Lane does bolt and he does go to LSU or Florida, well, those two programs are above you anyway. Now that just helps you elevate yourself. If you bring in Golish, he's successful. You're now middle of the pack, now working your way up. in a couple of years.
And I know that there, I mean, we've already seen it here in the comments that there was other people offered. He hasn't accepted. We're well aware of this.
Yeah.
Here's how things have changed within just the last few days from information that's been given out. We've gone from, let's see, Matt Campbell, that it was Matt Campbell's to basically accept or reject, and they were waiting on that. We've heard it was Eric Morris. We've heard then it was Eric Morris or a mystery Power 4 Big 12 guy, which then you go back to Matt Campbell, or do you reach out and you think Kenny Dillingham? Then, I mean, and then you had Kane Womack as kind of the backup plan for the other two. You know, whatever the combination of this is, at this point, it doesn't really matter because this is where we are right now. You know, it's one of those that I totally get, because we've seen it before at other schools when some of this information gets out, and it's one of those that the coach usually gets a little bit unhappy in the midst because he maybe he hasn't told his team yet, whether it be because they have a game coming up, or, you know, a lot of these coaches like to be the ones to have this conversation. And the media ruins that for a lot of these coaches to not be able to have those conversations. So it's a tough spot to be in, but it's the world we live in this day and age. So it's one of those that I don't think any of the players, and I could be wrong on this, but I think in the world of college sports, when you're in a lower tier conference, I don't think anybody would get mad at your coach or teammate having the opportunity to go to a larger program in one of, if not the, and I say one of because there's the comparison with the Big Ten, but the best conference in college sports.
Absolutely. And this right here, why can't we get a booster like Tyson did for the Arkansas basketball team? Because you would need multiple. There's a huge difference between 5 to 6 million that can fund a whole basketball team, opposed to what would 5 million do for a football team. It wouldn't. You would need Hunt, Tyson, Walmart, everybody. And then the comment here, let me see if I can go back to it, or I've already passed it. There was because the other people are funding the Broncos for 4.6 billion. So I really want to touch on that, because what do you think the ROI is on funding an NFL team that makes money, that makes you a lot of money? You could buy the Broncos for 4.6 billion. Even look at the Dallas Cowboys. Haven't made the playoffs in 25 years, but yet they're still the most popular and the most revenue, I guess, and shared. I wouldn't say revenue shared, but they bring in the most revenue of any pro sports team out there. And if Jerry Jones sold them today, he would make billions of dollars off of that, opposed to you're putting money into the U of A. Now, I've said this multiple times. Go inside the stadium. You see Walmart all over the inside of the stadium. Why do they want to put their name on the outside of the stadium? Because guess what? That's not doing anything for the program, because it's going on the stadium. I don't know, but we said on Sunday that the former CEO, that there's a plan in place, that the former CEO of Walmart is wanting to get in and make a huge NIL deal. Again, reports are that so they are banking. They know what's going on with this program and this hire. So now this could go all awry, because if you follow the crumbs, there's some people who say that they're on the inside, or they being told this, and that their money will go elsewhere. If this is the hire, we don't know what they're being told. So there's a lot to think about when you're talking about funding a football team opposed to a basketball team. You need a plan, and people, it's easy for John Tyson to write a check for $4 million or whatever. But think about these people that are having to fund $20 million, or get 3 or 4 people together to pitch in $5, $6, $7 million each a year. This ain't a one-time deal, too. This is, you're going to do this year after year after year for these programs. And the price is going up. So it might be 5 this year, 6 next year, 7 the following year. There's a lot to think about when you're talking about budgets.
Well, and it's something too with the potential NIL initiative that we talked about a week or two ago, and the three parties involved. Yes, there's the soon-to-be retired CEO. There's a co-founder of a capital investment firm in Northwest Arkansas. There's somebody with the last name Walton. So it's one of those that they hear, because this isn't the only time we've seen people, hey, they're worried about the Broncos. They're worried about this. They're not worried about funding. Like there's more than one Walton.
Mm-hmm.
And the Walton that owns the Broncos isn't the one that we're talking. So there's layers to that.
Yeah.
Well,
but they own other pro teams. We talked about this a month ago. Well, they own the Avalanche, the Broncos. Don't they have a say so in the Chargers too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's multiple. And just real quick on this comment, let me find it. It says winning a national championship wouldn't produce money. Yes, but we're talking about a couple of million, or say 5 million, compared to hundreds of millions. When you're talking about NFL, I know you have a favorite team, or you might like a team or here and there, but there's no NFL product in Arkansas. So it's like going from high school, what you get at your concession stand and what you get from your athletic booster club, compared to what Arkansas is making in their football program. Now take that and go a step higher. That's the difference between what the NFL makes. Arkansas makes 40 to 50 million off their TV rights. Well, we don't know how much these NFL teams are making off of their revenue. So it is a whole nother stratosphere when it comes to NFL programs. So when you're talking about, I am going to invest billions of dollars into this, I expect to get back all of that and more. In the state of Arkansas right now, even if you put all the money together, you got to make sure you're getting the right pieces of the puzzle, your coach, your coaching staff, the players, because these players are just coming in for a year or two. This ain't something that we're going to invest in these players and then 3 years down the road, they're going to win us the national championship. You're getting a whole team to come in expecting to win now. If not now, the following year. And if that happens, then you got to do it again. So there's a lot more to risk investing in a college program, especially a college program that's in the SEC, that's at the bottom, and you're adding another SEC game to their schedule. So it's not as, okay, hey, look, man, we're Arkansas strong, one Razorback, invest in us. They've got to go to a board to approve that, hey, we can invest this amount of money in this program. Well, what's the return? Are we sure this is going to work out? Well, we don't know. Maybe in 3 years. So now we're 15 million in the hole, hoping that in 2 or 3 years this thing plays out.
I'm not kind of at a loss. I guess we're just at this point, and we talked about this Sunday, and now that you're going to have the folks that are just flat out unhappy with it. Which, if you're unhappy with the potential of this, then I totally get it. Like, you're entitled to that. I just don't think we're at this point that, like, I know everybody wanted some big name and some this and some that, and I'm just kind of like, what made anybody think that we are going to, like, go get the biggest name out there? After James Franklin, what was everybody's plan B? And not, when I say everybody, I mean fan wise. We still had the folks in our comment sections wanting John Gruden, wanting to keep Bobby Petrino. And this right here, we've said this multiple times on the show. We know that nothing has been, that we know of, fully agreed, signed, whatever. But we're going off of the early report that looks to be more true than not. So if you don't want to believe it, don't believe it. And I get, because I knew that there was going to be those that until the university announces it, they're not going to believe it. I totally get it. It's one of those things that it's just, right now it's just a very uneasy time for a lot of us. But I don't see a point in like being a Debbie Downer about it, I guess. Because
Yeah.
I personally think that a lot of the choices that have been talked about the last few weeks are better than the situation that we've been in.
Yeah.
So,
and to clarify, it is not the Chargers; it is the Rams. So I wanted the Brady G111. They at least 3 major sports. They're directly through their members' spouses. So they own the Denver Broncos through the Walton Penner Group. Ann Walton owns the Colorado Avalanche and the Denver Nuggets, and her husband Stan and family also have a stake in the Rams and the Arsenal, which is their premier league soccer. So let's see other things. Colorado Rapids, their major league soccer team. So no, it was not the Chargers at the Rams. So I'm sorry for misspeaking on that. I knew it was a team in LA. So it's that's where we're looking at. You're talking about 11 different people. I think Arkansas has 11 billionaires in the state, but and then you have to factor in there's a lot of the Waltons that they give to Missouri. They do. You got the Waltons Art Center, you got Bud Walton Arena, you have Walmart inside the stadium. So they are giving, and that's what really bothered me when Frank Fletcher come out and said, "Well, I'm disappointed in the Waltons." To me, it's like I kind of put that on Hunter Yurchek, because when he approached Walmart about this, was there a deal in place where they could have potentially said, "Hey, look, we'll put you on the stadium, but we want you to help out with the NIL"? Or was he greedy and just said, "Hey, we'll put your logo on the stadium"? Did the board say, "Hey, look, we don't want to invest in NIL. We'll agree to giving them money if they put us on the"? So we don't know both sides of the story. We can only speculate. But it's hard for me to hear someone say, "I'm disappointed in Walmart," when but Walton's on the name. Walmart's on the inside of the stadium. And when he come out beforehand said, what did he say? 8 cars, or he'd give away 8, 9 cars if they won 8 games. So to me, he's got money too. I mean, just because Walmart's saying they have all this money, I mean, I don't know. It's a weird thing to say in calling out another booster. So there's just so much. It's crazy when you hear a name. Okay, this is done. There's more confusion today, I think, than before on when we're talking about who's going to be the next head coach.
Mm-hmm. And just while we're not to completely shift gears, if you will, but some folks, just to kind of go back to some of Golish's philosophies, background, things of that nature. A lot of it, and I've talked about weeks ago when his name had first came up, was this clip I'm about to play, but it's how him and his coaches evaluate players. And this right here, I think, is key for transfer portal, and then what they're looking at with high school athletes. And I mean, the in-depth in this short little 50-second clip of everything they look at. I mean, it's an interview worth watching in its entirety, but we'll play this right quick.
If the cat don't have a 33-inch arm, he better be running a 4.4 and jump 40 inches. If you're going to sacrifice arm length, the rest of it better be freakish. Start every year with a scouting school where every coach presents essentially their position, from measurements to 40 times, literally hand measurements, arm measurements, to intangible characteristics. And then we, as a full staff, will watch comps. A guy that would be a slam dunk dream to a guy that you would take and be really happy, to a developmental guy. And then we always watch a comp on our team. I want this, but longer arms. We talk about it like it's a lengthy process, but I feel like it forces the position coaches to, one, teach what they actually want, list the standards that are non-negotiable. It allows you to cut kids off that man, this kid isn't going to.
Yeah, good stuff right there. I mean, that just shows you his mindset. And there's others ones that, you've showed me today that he's got a plan. And again, we talk about his progress and his, record against Memphis and Navy, and we don't know what kind of NIL he had to deal with there. But, he was what, 7-6, 7-6, 8-3. That's a lot better than 4-8, 7-6, and potentially 2-10. I mean, so there's just I feel for the fans because they've been through so much the past 10 weeks. Guys, y'all been through the ringer of, you knew Pittman's time was up. Bobby Petrino come in and everybody's hopes were he's going to be the next head coach. He's going to come in and he's going to do enough. Nobody expected him to win 6-7 games. Nobody expected him to take this team with this defense and make them bowl eligible. But to get this team and still not be able to beat the two, I mean, I 2 games. That's what I wanted. Just be able to prove that you can beat anybody. And then let's see where you can go. And I've also said, when you made him the head coach, how much of the offense did he have to relinquish because he was the head coach now? I know we have to take that into a factor, and it's something that you're hoping, but still yet, if you want him to be the coach next year, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a head coach that is offensive minded, and he is going to have to relinquish some of those offensive duties, whether he is the head coach / OC or not. And what he did with this offense, year 2 with this quarterback that was, supposed to be one of the top quarterbacks in the SEC, I just didn't see enough to gamble on just how big this decision was moving forward to this program. And as important as it is, because there's talks about a super conference coming out, there's talks of a 16-team playoff, which they keep, dragging it on. I think it should go to 12. I think we're starting to realize that the 12-team playoff is where the cutoff should be. I wanted 8. I think that's where you would have got, because these conferences and the 4 buy-ins and the automatic bids, and you give one automatically to the ACC and then a Power 5. I think that's ridiculous. But if you go to a 16-team playoff, you're going to automatically be giving bids to people that don't deserve it. I think you keep it at 12. You go 1 through 12, seed them 1 through 12, no automatic bids, and you play ball. You line them up and you have a tournament.
I've wondered I think that a lot of the college football playoff, when you look at it, they're wanting, in a sense, to replicate what March Madness is. And it's one of those things you can't do that. They need to stay separate. Just because you have more doesn't mean it's better. So, yeah, I don't necessarily think that you expand to 16 plus teams. You're going to get some bad games in that mix. So I'm kind of with you. Anything was better than 4. 8 was decent, because even at 12, you might have a team or two that's like, do they really deserve to be here? I don't really feel like you're going to get your Cinderellas that you get with March Madness. And so, less isn't more when it comes to football. I don't feel like.
I truly think there's really, and Adam, if you know one, post, chime in. But the only Cinderella I remember was when Boise State upset Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. It's not like you have a was it George Mason that went to the Final Four, or was it George Washington?
George Mason, I think.
George Mason. You have teams like that make a Final Four run, or, look what Gonzaga did back in the 90s. Now they've proven themselves over the years, but when they were first coming up, they made runs. You have Cinderellas. That's why they call it March Madness. You have all these upsets. UMBC, Loyola Chicago. Football, it's a different story. It is a total different story, because on both sides of the ball in basketball, your stars are out there. Now you have teams that, hell, you can barely get a guy to come in on a 4th down. He plays a couple of plays and he's asking for subs, or you got one quarterback. There's a huge drop off between the quarterback and the second string.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot of things to account for with the difference of basketball to football, but the money's still going to be there. The TV money, you're seeing streaming, you're seeing ESPN try to take over. You're trying to make this bigger. Players are getting paid now. So you're offsetting this. So my worry is the more players are getting paid, the more NIL becomes, money's going to players. So the money that is going to players is not going to TV revenue. It's going to TV deals. It's not going to universities. So they're going to expand these playoffs to make up for that. They're going to get money. And that's what scares me about all these ESPN deals going up, YouTube TV, all these things, what ESPN is trying to, monopolize and buy everything. And what was $30 is now $100. There's a lot to it because this is where the money is. It's NFL, NBA, and then college football is working its way up to be a major deal where it could potentially, if it turns nationwide, can compete with some of these professional sports.
I mean, we got to a point that, before we really only talked these college sports in season. And so, the summer was kind of a lull if you didn't talk pro sports.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are during the summers. We're talking transfer portal. We're talking rule changes, NIL. I mean, they've now made it. It's a year-round topic. It's something that, at times can be a bit tiring. But a lot of the tiresome, I feel like, comes from the uncertainty of a lot of things because the NCAA is still navigating a lot of these changes. And I feel like that they're trying to do too much too quick, which is causing some of these issues. And that's why we see NIL what it is, because they just let it be the wild, wild west with no guidelines and no salary caps, if you will, and things of that nature. ESPN, their ESPN bet platform is failing. They're losing a lot of money. So they go and buy, what was it, DraftKings?
Partner with DraftKings. Yep.
So here we are at this day, and then they come out with the new rules that college athletes can bet on professional sports. So yeah, we're in a whole new world. We said it a long time ago that amateurism in college athletics is dead. There's no more student athlete anymore. So the whole thing doesn't sit well with a lot of folks, and rightfully so. The college sports that we once knew is dead. What can you do at this point? You can either find some middle ground as a fan to deal with it and move on, or stop watching and stop talking about it. And I don't think that the latter is going to happen for a lot of folks. But I do want to touch on this because we shared the clip out, kind of switch gears real quick. But, Mark May at the Little Rock Touchdown Club, I just have a short clip here of about 30 seconds, but, he didn't hold back. He didn't pull punches. And, I posted this on my personal page and on Hog Talk. And, there were some comments in there that I didn't feel like some folks didn't understand why we were so glad that Mark May said what he said. Because and the rebuttal back to it, or the response that they could give, they didn't like it because here we are hammering Hunter Yurachek for what he said at the Little Rock Touchdown Club
a year ago.
Well, and
a year ago we've started it. Yeah,
I just look at it like I would rather be oblivious to Sam Pittman not having the financial resources than the athletic director who is in charge of this whole thing coming out and saying it, because that tells me that he just point blank period admitted in front of everybody that he failed at a big portion of his job.
Yeah.
And that's how I looked at it. I'd rather Hunter Yurachek just kept his mouth shut, which also I wish he would have kept his mouth shut last night before he did this thing. And I have it too.
6, 7.
So, we just, I don't know, but I'm going to play the Mark May clip and we'll regroup.
Yeah. So do you believe that Arkansas has the ability with 16 great teams in the SEC to be able to raise the money to compete with other schools?
Well, as it was said earlier, you've got more billionaires in this state than Alabama and anybody else in Mississippi does. Why can't you compete? Not only compete, but be better than them. Why can't you? You know, you've got to follow this football team, and you've got to get the support. And if I'm the athletic director here, I sure as heck don't come out and say in the media that we can't compete and we can't financially stand up to the other teams in this conference. You don't say that.
Facts. I'm glad somebody on the national level said that, because you know what? The ones who openly have said this for a year now, that he's incompetent and should not be the athletic director, we feel a little validated now, because there's been a lot of people, you know, I know there's a lot of fans who know he should go. There's a lot of fans, but nobody outside of a few outlets are really coming out and saying he should not be the athletic director. And now there are a lot of people starting to come around to the idea. And it's the thing that you're ready. You talk about a coach, and what is a lot of people's meaning or reasoning behind Alex Golesh? Well, he's never been a head coach in the SEC. Hunter Yurchek was not an SEC AD, and especially with how things are evolving so fast, and football is king. He really thinks that he can win all these conference championships and all these other sports, and everybody's just going to forget about football. That's not the SEC. No disrespect to basketball or any other program at the University of Arkansas or any other university outside of Kentucky basketball, maybe Vandy baseball before Diego Pavia, women's basketball at South Carolina. There's few outliers. Football is king. Ohio State, Michigan, they could care less about what other teams really do in other sports outside of when Ohio State and Michigan are playing each other. They love to root for their team, but football is king. That's just the way it is. And if you don't put football first, nothing else can succeed. And you put football first, and football starts having good teams, good programs, revenue. Guess what? Everybody else gets to eat. We've said that for a year now in this show. Football will lead to everything else being good, because if your money's coming in for football, you can use revenue share and you can distribute out more to your other programs. Let's take soccer and softball for just a moment. And you're having teams that are on the brink of going to a College World Series and a College Cup. What if you could make sure that those teams can now be in the College World Series every year? You could be in the College Cup every year. You could get Deifel and Colby Hill a national championship because you can give them more. You could give Shauna Taylor Estes another national championship in golf. You could give these people resources, because guess what? You're doing baseball. They're set because they have Hunts. Basketball set because they got Tyson. You can start feeding these other programs, men's basketball or the baseball team, give them more money. It can make everybody happy, but your focus is on the secondary programs, and you're hanging your hat on conference championships when other programs that you're supposed to be the better program are winning national championships. What if that extra money gets you that national championship for Dave Van Horn? What if that gives you that basketball championship for Cal? Or you know what? Let's go. What if that gives you a national championship in football? It is a pipe dream right now, and I know a lot of people are sitting here laughing about even the thought of Arkansas having a national championship in football. But what if it could happen? What would this fan base do if they got a football national championship or another basketball? We've been reliving 94 and 64 our whole lives. And it can happen. I'm not saying in the near future, but if you really got the Thanos rings out and you got Walmart, you got Tyson, you got Hunt, you got Stevens, you got Fletcher, you got all the people that can back Arkansas, and you get the right pieces of the puzzle with the coach, the players, and NIL, you can win a national championship at Arkansas. You're seeing other programs get close and make a college football playoff. When you get to a 12-team playoff or March Madness or the College World Series, after that, it's luck and skill. The best team does not always win the national championship in those three big sports. You have to get lucky. You just get to the dance, you get to the college football playoff, or you get to the College World Series, you have a chance to win a national championship, and that can happen for Arkansas. It could.
I'm just going to touch on a couple of tweets that have been put out within the last hour.
Uh-oh.
This, it's not. It just kind of shows though. This is coming from a award-winning retired sports anchor reporter out of the state of Florida, with WTVT Fox 13. Covered the Bucks, Rays, Lightning, USF, UF, FSU, etc. So an hour ago, he puts out, his name's Kevin O'Donnell, at Kev O'Donnell FLA is his Twitter handle. I have confirmed USF head coach Alex Golish has not agreed to take the Arkansas job. He just addressed his USF team and said he's been approached by some schools, but he will make his decision this weekend after discussing with his family. Fast forward to 8 minutes ago, USF head coach Alex Golish delaying his announcement until this weekend doesn't mean he's not taking the Arkansas job. He just isn't ready to make the call. Wife, after all, is from Arkansas. That weighs heavily. Team source didn't think he was leaving, but feeling changed after the loss to Navy. So prior to that loss, they didn't think he would leave, and then now it's kind of a different story. So yeah, there's decisions to be made. What I think a lot of this comes back to it being leaked this morning.
Yeah.
I think that threw a wrench in whatever plans that were there. But you have reporters close to USF saying, hey, we don't know either, but it's not untrue, but we just don't know.
And it could have been true the whole time, and this blows up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this could be one of the things. It could have been true, and then what if South Florida brings them everything they've asked for and more? Because the same things I've said can be said about South Florida. I mean, you're in a lesser conference. It's an easier path to the college football playoff. What if you go on a big run? What if you make the college football playoff? That's the goal. Now you're there. But we've seen the drop off between these Power 5 guarantees and these G5 guarantees that just can't still stack up with. You have a chance to come somewhere close to home and realistically win a national championship. And just for those who are kind of, yes, what's happened and you heard Trey Schapp reported it, kind of the timeline started about 7:57 this morning. Got a text that Golish had an offer sheet from Arkansas. Shortly after, a source told him that he wasn't sure about the information. And then around 9 a.m., Chef received a follow-up text. Your source is right. I got a phone call, and they said it's a done deal. 9:25, Schapp tweets out that Golish had accepted the Arkansas offer. This is according to what Trey Schapp said on the radio, and this was in an article of Best of Arkansas Sports. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those that, man, if this blows up, now what if? Mm-hmm. What if? And that's, it's crazy when Arkansas Duke happens. We're talking football for the second year in a row, or third, whatever. It was the year before last, wasn't it? When Bobby Petrino, yeah. But if this indeed goes down, and it's not, mm-hmm. This will be the first time I'm really like, okay, is there people going to be with pitchforks? Is there really people on Dixon Street? Like, it's one of those. Perfect. I mean, yeah, USF beat Navy, then they were essentially in the playoff.
I think that if this doesn't come to fruition, then this doesn't happen. And I don't know anybody that would disagree with this. If you do, let us know. You will 100% be the laughing stock of the NCAA.
Mm-hmm. Including us, because we played part in it. I mean, anybody who runs with this. So we're not without fault. I mean, we took what his report was, and like everybody else, we put it out there. We've, talked about it all hour for an hour tonight of him being the coach. But the PTSD, until it's signed, it's not a done deal. But all signs are pointing toward that. Now, if it doesn't happen, hey, Sunday's going to be an interesting show. We'll have to come back and backtrack a lot of things. And yeah, we will be getting laughed at. And we're already getting laughed at enough because they're under the oppression. And I don't know the details of it. It could be true. Morris choosing Oklahoma State over Arkansas. Are people viewing Oklahoma State as a better program now than Arkansas?
Well, and it's one of those things too, that even from your credentialed media members, you had one point out that Alex Golesh was never even an option, wasn't even interviewed. And that was yesterday. So,
well, and Mike Irwin doubled down on that and said he could be correct. And unless they just offered him the job, and they can now backtrack that and say, well, I mean, they didn't interview him. They just gave him an offer sheet. So they could backtrack that, but it's hard for me to believe, especially if he does become the head coach, that happened. He is just number one. I'm sorry, I'm petty about him, personal about him, because he screwed us over personally. I've said it. He still gets to report, and he still gets to do things for the university when he put stuff out there that wasn't true, and he gets to backtrack from it. So I can't stand the guy, hate the guy, because I've never got an apology from that. So screw him. I don't care. Otis sucks. I'm sorry. Because you know what? I've said it many times, but the thing is, I worked my ass off for 3 years to get to where I was with the women's programs at Arkansas when nobody was covering, when none of them was popular. And he puts that out there that Pittman was going to be fired. So yes, I will hold that dear. And if I'm petty and I'm whiny about it, yeah, but I lost everything I built off of his shit, and I will never forgive him for it. I'm sorry. And I've got the screenshot. I've got the proof that he put it out there. And not one of these people backed me up or said that I was legit in what I said, even though people agreed with what I said. So for those asking, 2 years ago, Otis Kirk put out there that Bobby Petrino was going to be fired and there was going to be a press conference called. Sam Pittman. Yeah. Sorry. We ran with it, and then it didn't happen. Bobby Petrino was the coach, and then we got everything stripped from us. We lost all of our credibility, and he gets to walk away. So, yeah, I do not like the guy, and I will say it to his face, because he still gets to be on TV. He still gets to write for Pig Trail Nation. He still gets to have everything he done, even though he blatantly tried to backdoor it in the message board so it couldn't bite him in the ass, and we took it and ran with it. And we were the sacrificial lamb because we're a podcast. We're not big TV. So we cannot ever have credentials at the University of Arkansas ever again because of his ass. And I'll say it to his face.
I'd like to be there for that conversation.
I would need you.
Yeah. So
I would need you. I would, brother Collier, I love you, dog, but I'm 43. I'm not young. I'm not young.
So anyway, yes, we're still in the world of unknown. So, it's one of those, by Sunday, let's hope that we have something. And I think over the next I truly think that tomorrow's just going to kind of be ho-humming along. It's Thanksgiving. There's some games. You got, I think, 3 NFL games. You got Arkansas and Duke at 7 p.m. on CBS. Then you have the lineup on Friday, Arkansas, Missouri on Saturday. So, you'll hear from Lane Kiffin after the Ole Miss game on his decision, according to the Ole Miss athletic department. And I think that is truly going to be the domino effect, is what Lane Kiffin comes out and says. So a lot is going to happen this weekend, not just on the Arkansas front, but college sports as a whole.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just saying there's a lot that can happen. And I'm telling you, Adam, if everything happens and we just have everything happen, we might have to do a 2-hour joint show, because it would I mean, there's just so much, and we come our angle, and then Hog HQ, they have their angle on how but if this all goes down, if Golesh is hired and Kiffin bolts or stays, there's going to be so much that could go down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's one of them things that we might end up having to do a 2-hour show on Sunday because there's so much to talk about.
Because I look at it too, and before we get off here, because I think we could probably go on with this for a long time. But I think that, what does or does not happen at Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin, I think that then you're going to have, like John Summerall. He's going to have to make a decision.
Yeah.
At that point. So if Ole Miss isn't open up, I think that he looks at Auburn. Possibility of Florida. I think Auburn just being from the state of Alabama. If Lane does go to LSU, I think that opens the door for John Summerall to go to LSU or to go to Ole Miss.
Yeah.
So there's a number of things that could happen. I think Eric Morris was smart in his decision of rather than being left behind, he took a job opening that he saw a good fit for and he took it. I also think that I'm not saying that Oklahoma State has more leeway, if you will, when it comes to the fans or athletic department as a whole or whatever the case may be. But I think that they would give him longer to right the ship at Oklahoma State than somebody would get at Arkansas. I don't feel like whoever this hire ends up being, I don't know that they get 6 years if things aren't turned around after a few years. But I will say this, whoever the athletic director is at Arkansas, just because you have one good season, and by that, I mean, hey, year 2, you had a great season, won 8-9 games, whatever the case may be, that doesn't garner an immediate contract extension.
Yes.
We've got to stop with these early extensions, no matter who you are.
But I think if you do your pay for performance, if you're like, look, you keep giving, we're going to make sure you get paid. And then when that contract runs out, then we can renegotiate it. But look, we're paying you extra money for winning more. You're talking about, well, hey, I've won 7-8 wins. Hey, man, that's great. That's what we want you to do. That's why we're giving you, say, $1 million extra or $2 million. Give him $2 million, $3 million for making the college football playoff. At a place like Arkansas, that might be worth $5 million. Just what it means to the program and to the fans and to you for bringing us out of the rubbish and getting to the college football playoff. Dude, $5 million for making the college football playoff and 10 for winning. I don't know. I'm just throwing out numbers. Yeah. But how about 3 for making it and 5 for winning? That is a very reasonable thing to do. So it gives you something to fight for.
Definitely.
Getting to 6 or 7 wins and then sandbagging and then having a TV show about your life, and then you're off back to the Big Ten.
Yeah, it's going to be a exciting weekend all around, but everybody just needs to remember it's Thanksgiving tomorrow.
It is, yeah. Look, it's Thanksgiving tomorrow, but all right, before we go, you can answer it in our DMs or in our comment section. We'll put it out there. How many people are actually going to be paying attention to their Thanksgiving dinner? They're going to be glued to their phones waiting for updates. Guaranteed.
I know that tomorrow night I'm going to have on one screen Baltimore and Cincinnati, and I'm going to have on the other screen Arkansas and Duke. So I'll have a doubleheader tomorrow night. And speaking of the game, I just hope that the guys come out, and I mean, you're going to have to play your best game. Duke is, and I know they're number 4. Cam Boozer's the real deal. So it's just one of those things. I hope they come out ready to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
And keep their attitudes in check a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. But for Adam Hall, I'm Porter Hayes. Want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Yeah, and yes, I did tease maybe if all the cards play right, we might do a Hog Talk straight into a Hog HQ Live, or we might just do a whole big collab. We'll figure that out depending on what happens. But if not, we'll be live 6:05 on Sunday, Hog HQ Live on 8:05 on Sundays. But everybody have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. We appreciate each and every one of you. Please, for those that are tuning in, everybody watching, go like, subscribe, download our podcast. Goes a long ways to help us out. And we'll catch you on Sunday.